Right. Welcome everybody to another Tuesday Gun Channels coaching session. We invite Clover Tack from Texas to join us, and we talk about the nuts and bolts and in this case, the motivations and inspirations for content creation with a focus on guns, Second Amendment, and our community over here. So I don't really have an introduction. We're working on that. If somebody has an idea for one, let us know. We go live on Tuesdays and we talk about this kind of stuff. We've got a topic today, but I'll let Clover introduce it. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, happy to be here as usual.
So yeah, I mean, like I just gave you the topic there, but now if you want to introduce it, give us your spin on it, and then we'll get going.
Well, I haven't read through the show notes, so.
Oh, I haven't either. I just created them and put them in there. But
But
I
on
did
what you
fairly good.
said, it's more about the why, I guess, the motivating factors and things of that nature.
Yeah. So I was sitting here thinking about it, and what motivates us, right? Is it what other people have already done, or is it what could be done, what doesn't exist yet? And I don't know if it's an either or, but it was an interesting thing. So I threw it into the computer. I guess that'll start us off here. We'll see what the computer told us. Like I said, I just copied and pasted. It's hopefully not horrible. I didn't even read it. It says, in this thought-provoking video, we will explore the difference between what has been done and what could be done. We all have experiences where we look back and wonder what could have been different if we had taken a different path. But it's not just about regret, it's also about the power of imagination and the potential for positive change. We take a closer look at examples from our history, science, and tech to see how what has been done can be stepping stone to what could be done. We examine the benefits of learning from the past and building on existing knowledge and progress, as well as the importance of dreaming big and envisioning a better future. Through a combination of engaging visuals and thought provoking narration provided by Clover and I, this video encourages viewers to think critically about their own lives and the world around them by exploring the potential for change and progress. We can all be inspired to make a difference and create a better world for ourselves. Join us on this journey of self reflection and discovery as we explore the power of what could be done and how it could shape our lives and the world we live in. So, pretty big words there, but I'm down for that. What do you think? Once you've heard the computer's description of this concept, how do we apply it to guns? We got a live conversation going, so people that are joining us live, welcome. We'll say hey to everybody, but be part of this conversation. If you're listening in the future, guess what? You're on this planet too. You can be part of this one also. So
True.
I'll let Clover riff for a bit here. Now that you've heard that, where does that take you?
When I hear that, I think about the people that maybe are new to firearm ownership and they're hesitant. They kind of maybe they want to turn the camera on, maybe they want to turn a microphone on, and they're hesitant because they don't understand. And this could honestly be any niche, but they don't understand, what they have to offer because they're new. They're just getting in. They're just starting to experience it. And what they fail to realize is, even though we are all individuals and we all kind of are going our own way at our own pace, um, there's thousands upon thousands of people that are in the same exact situation they are. And by them starting that channel, by them uploading those videos or doing those podcasts and just talking about, you know, what it's like, what they learned today as far as firearms, what type of first firearm they got, their reasoning behind it, how that was good or bad or a mistake, right? That really speaks to, um, a core audience that are asking those questions and they're having those same struggles and those same problems and, everything else. So not only is there, um, is there a demand for that, but also there is the potential for a community building aspect around it too. And that's sort of what I've got from that a little bit. That um, just taking that leap is tough, I think, for people.
I don't know. Kind of dig these because they don't have any. It's not like we had a bunch of like bullet points that we're trying to get across or anything that's just kind of open ended, very open ended type of topic. I'm thinking of it more in the picture of um, coming from something else I've been doing here in the last couple of days to back to thinking about the coaching thing. Um, when we're trying to get, I don't know, just general information to a kid or kind of wisdom from one generation to the next, I guess I was thinking of it from that angle as far as the what has been done, not so specifically to the specifics of what we're doing in 2023, but in general, like as generations try to get information to the next generation. And you've got, I was thinking, I was listening to somebody's podcast. Who was I listening to? I can't remember anymore. I was listening to somebody's interview type of thing, and they were young and ambitious and, doing something new. It wasn't guns, it was something else, but in their realm they were doing something kind of new, and I was thinking, is there anything new under the sun, right? It's new to the generation today because they haven't seen it recently, but it's an iterate what do you call it, an iteration of some things that have been done before. It's not a copy necessarily. Somebody's allowed to come up with something that's similar to something else somebody's already done, but whatever the way that they were portraying it, it just made me think like, oh, you know what? As an old person, I know that I've seen that kind of thing happen 3 or 4 times. But as a new person, somebody who has just hadn't had time walking on the planet for a while, you don't realize that unless you research history or something, that this has been kind of gone around the block a few times. So anyway, I guess that just made me think of like generationally, or if that's the right word, just getting big info. A lot of times we think of tradition and we do things because of tradition, but then I don't know if it's just as often, but sometimes people will do things despite the tradition, like, oh, everybody does it this way, but they're not questioning it. Let's do it the other way and see why we don't do it that way, or let's see what happens if you do it that way. And I know the young tend to go that way because they haven't had the wisdom of experience or the benefit of wisdom, right, to gain wisdom. So they're going to by nature try things that are new or repeat things because they just don't know that they're repeating things or trying things that are new. They're just doing whatever. And then how many times do you do things as a new person before you get calloused over and you only do the things you're familiar with? And how much of that happens and how much of the traditions and stuff are due to that. Like, it's just easier to do it this way instead of fighting the current. Let's just do it this way. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling there, but that's the point. So I was thinking of it, I guess, from the bigger things. And if we're talking content creation, are you doing your content to get generational messages from one generation to the next? Like, what's significant, what's important? Or are you doing it because something's been out of the equation? Something hasn't been brought up, and it's important to add that. And you're seeing what can be added to the whatever that general I don't want to call it transfer, but continuation of knowledge, that gets added to. So are you thinking of what hasn't been in the mix and you're adding stuff to it? And in that case, how does that affect your creation? I don't know. I'm going off in tangents here. So we're 8 minutes into the show. We've got a bunch of people joining us now. I don't know. I put a poll out there. Maybe the next way to go, unless Clover has something to riff off of what I just said here. How would you answer the question to the poll? Which is a bigger factor on your efforts today? What's already been done or what could possibly be done?
I don't know. That's kind of it's almost a catch-22 in a way, right? I mean,
Oh, it's a yin yang, right? Because
you
if
know,
you think of like the Second Amendment, that's what's already been done. And there's people that want us to forget that. So it's critically important to remember, not just an aspect, but the aspects, the total aspects of what that Second Amendment is for and why and all that. So some of that, I know we all have a foundational like element that we're going to keep that. But then I know we have also lots of different angles and opinions and interests and experiences to
yeah.
fill that.
Well, and a lot of it's going to depend on your goals, and there's factors that are going to determine, I guess, which one of those ultimately you would come down on in that poll. Um, for me, I think I'm at. Uh, that's a difficult one because I think I'm at maybe what has already been done.
I think I react to the stuff that's already been done because I see what's not there,
because
but I'm not looking at it as like what could possibly be done. I'm looking at it
yeah.
like here's what exists and here's what people are missing. So I'm filling in
Well,
gaps.
the
But I think
question, yeah, the question is which is a bigger factor on your efforts today, right? Factor, not
yeah,
necessarily which
bigger
one do you spend the
influence.
most time thinking about or whatever, right? And so, yeah, the influence. And so, for me, at this particular point, it's it's definitely what has already been done is the factor because that's sort of the catalyst, right? You see that it's already been done, but then as far as time spent and focus, it would be the second part of that, right? Like you have the cart before the horse. Don't put the cart before the horse, right? So, you look at things that have already been done and you go, wait, okay, I can tweak this, I can tweak that, I can do this a little bit differently. And so um, that speaks to the second part of that poll, which is what could possibly be done. So you kind of have to have that foundation first. And I think what's already been done would be a bigger factor because if you don't have that foundation, you're how do you keep everything grounded, right? How do you keep everything going in a specific direction? How do you know what I mean? Like
How do you orient?
if you just take off walking and you don't know from what point you left walking, like how do you figure out where you're at any given time?
Yeah,
Like,
great point. Like orientation. If you don't know
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah,
direction things are in and what direction people are generally moving in, then
right,
are you moving intentionally against the grain? Like, are you doing that for the reason? Is there a need for that? And you see that, or is it you're just not sure what's going on? You're randomly causing confusion, and that's a great point. I think a great interesting way to look at it because most people are doing stuff either because they got a place to go or because they're just walking and the herd's walking in that direction, and that's it's easier than fighting the stream. But so the tendency of the herd or the tendency of that that situation is for everybody to just walk the same way because it's easier, right? But if there's something happening, there's a fire or something, and somebody needs help, and you need to get across that parade or whatever that is, that current, then you have a deliberate reason to get across to go against the grain, right? And the I guess the norm is that if something is just randomly going against the grain, everything's focus is to just get it, change, get in line, get in line, get in line. It's sort of just the natural reaction. But and I think that's one of the forces in play. The tendency is to go with the flow, to do what's easiest, to just ignore the crazy stuff and just it'll go away. Because as soon as you go with the flow, you'll forget about what happened before. You're just paying attention to what's happening now. So that gets rid of the random and that gets rid of the chaotic. But I think there's certainly necessary for people that have a direction or have something that they
yeah,
see that needs to get accomplished to set, to be able to not only have the ambition to go across the grain, but then get there. And that's something that we're not just dots or random elements in an equation or something. Where humans start talking to each other. So with communication and the ability to express ourselves, we're able to say, "Hey, excuse me, I need to get through here. Hey, there's a reason I'm cutting through the grain here." And then people look and go, "Oh, wait a minute, we're all walking this direction, but that's by choice. We don't have to. We could all stop. We could all decide to walk in a different direction. We could all walk in different directions, separately, and we're all choosing to do this. And that's something that people that are accomplishing things that are outside of that flow, I think, can add to the mix because they're giving people that orientation. Because some people just wake up in the flow, wake up in the momentum or the whatever the drive, and then you don't even
mhm,
realize that you're you know doing something. It's like being on the earth, right? We don't realize we're spinning in like 8 different directions really fast because we all feel like we're just sitting here.
yeah,
Anyway, I'm getting off in tangents there again, but I thought that was a pretty interesting one. That yeah, you're gonna need an orientation. Otherwise, you're just rogue. And the people around you, I guess what I was also trying to express is that the people around you, if they don't understand you've got a destination in mind, then they're just going to see you as a whatever, a divergent, right? Like a
yeah,
random. And they're going to either try to push you in line or ignore you. Like, just let you go past and not give you anything, or, get out of your way and let you just go past, or they're going to stop and have a big problem with your
right.
choices or something.
And I think it all has to do with your. I think it has to do with your ultimate end goals. Again, I think it has to do with your personality. I think it has to do with, um, just all of those things. I mean, that's where you get trailblazers, right? Is that's
Mhm.
somebody who doesn't even start out on the main path of the main road. They go a completely different route with a machete from the start, right? So I mean, there are those folks that do take off on the second, what could possibly be done, and they run with it. Um,
Well, I'm thinking like a homeschooler, somebody that knows stuff. They have awareness, they understand the community, they can communicate, they can get out there and do stuff, but they haven't been indoctrinated, they haven't been programmed, they haven't just by default done stuff. There's just a lot of indoctrination that people don't think about when you have to wait in line and do stuff and everybody else is waiting in line and you get used to just waiting in line. That's messed up. And there's a lot of people that don't pay attention to that. And if you've never had to do that, imagine being a kid that grew up never having to wait and all the stuff we waited in line in school for. I mean, I can't even imagine how many times we waited in line for dumb things from lunch to everything else in the world. What if you lived at home and you never did any of that stuff? And not every homeschooler is just waking up and doing their homework out of their breakfast in bed or whatever. Obviously, they're doing all kinds of different things. So when you come from an experience or a upbringing of let's just call it organic versus the farmed, then you're not going to lay down and be in that grid like structure. You're not going to even understand it. So when you said like trailblazers, I'm thinking there's some people that don't realize, again, they don't have that orientation. They don't realize that everybody else is on this grid pattern. They're just like, hey, here's the possibilities and here's what I'm doing. And some people are going to see that as like, oh man, this person doesn't care at all about the rules.
mm, yeah, and it may go even further than that, where they don't even realize they're a trailblazer, right?
No, that's what I
They
meant.
don't.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly what I meant. They're just
yeah.
doing their thing. They don't even know that they're doing something beyond the norm because they don't know
Right.
there's a norm, right? And everybody else is like,
Hmm.
wow, this person's just doing some amazing stuff. And they're just like, well, I'm just doing things. I don't know what I'm doing. They don't realize the significance, let's say, from that perspective, right? And that's
Yep.
maybe what I'm talking about, or what maybe some of the stuff we want to get people to think about. Speaking of getting people to think about stuff, are you creating content for a reason? Are you creating content because you got nothing else better to do? Are you trying to make a living off of it? Are you trying to make a second living off of it, like what do you call that, a second job? Are you trying to just do better than some jerk who thinks he's so good on the internet, or some girl who thinks she's so good? Then you're looking for some kind of consulting or coaching. We are opening, what do we call that? Open office hours for about an hour or so after the show. We'll continue to do this for a couple of weeks to see if there's any response, give people time to schedule for it. It is the middle of the day. If I talk to 100 people, and I probably talk to 100 people occasionally, uh, half of them will tell me that they can only do things during business hours, and the other half will tell me they can only do things after business hours. So if you're one of the people that can't handle the fact that we're offering this in the middle of the day on a Tuesday, all I can tell you is you want to know how many times I've offered it on evenings, then you know what? It's just a timing thing. If you really want us to be available in the evenings, we can make that possible. But for now, since we're both together here, we're making it the hour after the show. So if you want to join us and get some actual, like, what do we call it? Private, not private, but personal consultant, like have us look at something.
Specifically tailored. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not charging nothing. It's just a matter of, we want to see people succeed, and sometimes it's difficult or whatever, not possible to really ask a question. Maybe it's off topic, but you have something they think we can help you with. We're going to offer that. So if you're interested in something like that, then let us know. We're not going to offer it forever because we're not weird or crazy or independently wealthy. So it's something that we both value. People who are out there doing their thing, our peers out there. And if we can offer some help, we're curious to see what's happening and see what kind of projects you got going on. And we get ultimate satisfaction. I think I can speak for Clover when we help people do their thing. And we all understand that we're better off when we have more valid voices on our side of the important stuff here, the stuff that does matter, right? The stuff that we're talking about. Uh, the stuff that we're talking about. Is that the way to say it? We're all here talking about gun related stuff, and that has to do with what that Second Amendment protects.
Right.
So we're all better off when we're stronger. And I know a lot of other channels out there will offer help and break down barriers and get rid of gatekeeping and do stuff for free. But we're going to add our hat to the mix and do that as well. Is there anything else? Did we wail on this topic? I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting topic. I don't know if it's a whole hour show or not. We're only 20 minutes in. Usually we're the other way around. Hour and a
Well, I
half
mean,
hours.
there's some things to be said. I mean, the poll you put out there, obviously, relevant to the topic. Um, I wonder, what is the likelihood if you have foundational, if you have that foundation, right? Um, if you're aware of what has been done, um, what is the likelihood, and this is going to get sticky because I'm going to use the word succeed and success, and that is relative. That is suggestive. It kind of depends on or whatever. It depends on the person, right? It depends on your goals, what you consider success. Success can come in many different forms, but which one is the going off on your own? We'll use the hiking trail analogy or whatever. Going off on your own with a machete, blazing your own trail, versus at least starting, on the main path. Um, and then maybe at some point you venture off of that path with your machete, right? And start, you branch off and you start going your own way. Which one of those? And this is a big question for me. Which one of those offers the best chance at some type of success? And my argument, obviously, with picking the what has been done, um, is that it would be having that foundational starting point, starting off on that main path, understanding, you know, what most everybody is doing, and then being aware, paying attention, right? There's a difference between I'm just following along this path with everybody else like a zombie, and we're all staying on the main path, and we're all listening to our iPods or whatever. We're not paying attention to the surroundings or anything else. We're just going from point A to point B. Maybe we're talking amongst ourselves, hence the echo chamber, right? Um, and actually looking and going, oh, wait a minute. So, like, off in the distance there in the woods, I see a certain some bushes or some flowers that I really enjoy, and I'm going that way, right? Like I've got my foundation down. I understand the some of the thought processes of the people that are going down this main path, but now that I have that, that security in starting out, like, okay, now I feel comfortable to chop into the woods and I'm going to go check out all these cool flowers that are way out here, right? And the people on the main trail, they, again, they may not have any interest. We all are individuals and we all have our own goals and our own ways that we want to do things and where we end up and our own definition of success and everything else. But maybe your definition of success was finding a grove of those flowers, right? And nobody else in that group, was thinking about that, because they weren't looking around, they weren't paying attention. So I think it offers less risk in that sense, um, as opposed to the trailblazer approach.
Yeah, I think that's deep. I think I hear what you're saying, and I'm gonna do it with that same analogy. So, because I was thinking the same thing right before you started to say it a little bit differently. As a trail person, I've done built trails before, and there's methods to it. If you just build a trail, for example, from the top of a hill to the bottom of the hill, and it rains any amount of times, what you have left is a canyon. So that's why, well, it's one of the reasons that roads going up a mountain will do switchbacks. They go back and forth and back and forth. That gives you a grade that's possible to not kill the muscles and the motors that have to go up the hill. The grade, it gets distributed when you go do switchbacks, but it also stops running water, prevents running water. And you'll see those little cuts in the trail as you're walking that go on a slant, and that's again to divert running water from just cutting the trail into a canyon, or the road or whatever it happens to be. So, as someone who's, whenever you've had to do trail work in the wilderness, which is a designated area of the country where you can't bring power tools, that means everything you do is with shovels and saws, shovels and hand saws. you notice trails. Like I've spent way too much time moving rocks to to create a little dumb part of a trail that stops water erosion. So when I think of someone like Clover's analogy, you're walking down a trail and you see those flowers and you want to book over to them. There's the novice or the youngin who sees the flowers and I'm going to immediately gratify my whatever that's called and run over and grab the flowers. And you're going to pick those flowers and you're going to have those flowers. And you might go, oh, all the rest of you people walk down the trail, but you didn't see the flowers. Okay. And then there's the layer where you go, well, there's going to be 200 people walking down this trail this year and next year and next year. And if we all start taking selfies, it might be 400 people and then 500 people. And if we want the trail to exist, so that our grandchildren can see it, let's build the trail in such a way that it doesn't destroy the mountain and everything that we want to see. So now you think about if 100 people are going to walk down this trail every day and 4 of them decide to walk over to those flowers, how long do the flowers last, right? They last a season or two. So you start to get into your experience versus the big picture. And when you decide, okay, with some experience, some wisdom, some time on the clock, you go, okay, I see some flowers and these kids that I'm walking with don't see the flowers. I need to let them see the flowers. Let's take a photo. Let's stop and take a photograph of those flowers. That's a very low impact. You haven't destroyed anything. You've stopped. You've accomplished your mission, right? That's something with experience. I think that's what you're saying. Like the unexperienced is going to clog over there, create soil erosion, tromp on who knows how many very like mosses and ferns and things that they have no interest in because they're not aware of. And they're just going to tromp all over all that stuff, which might take 40 years to grow to the little mossy plant that it was. And that's what's necessary for these flowers to exist. That creates the environment that brings the bugs that let these flowers get pollinated, but they're not interested in that. They see the bloom. So they walk over there, crush everything, destroy stuff that can never be, grown again. It took too long in a virgin forest to create that circumstance. So those flowers will never exist again. They picked the flowers that exist, and then they've walked straight back to the trail. So they've created an erosion rut that now looks interesting. So other people are going to decide, oh, somebody else has walked down this trail. I'm going to walk down this trail too. And now they've created this useless trail that just hurts everything just for their own satisfaction. And they've opened up a gate. So there's that. And then there's the wise person who understands, and they might go, oh, snap, those flowers are to the point where they're overcropping. And if nobody does anything, just like if you leave all the dead wood in a forest, guess what? That forest dies anyway because it burns down completely, right? You have to maintain and manage. So that person with wisdom and understanding is going to, gracefully tread out there lightly, not destroy any of the unnecessary stuff, pick the couple of flowers that are necessary to cull it, right, to manicure it, and then bring those back to the trail, or maybe put those at a vase at the beginning of the trail and say, hey, don't pick these, and here's why, and maybe make a YouTube video about why you shouldn't jump off the trail. So that's like the same situation. Somebody wanted to see some flowers off the trail with experience and without experience, and the consequences of both, right? And what are we doing with Second Amendment? Does that work? Am I in the same analogy?
I think so. I think so, because as you were saying that, I was thinking that too. Like using that same analogy, right? You start out with foundational, it's less risk. You see the grove of flowers, right? There's those people that are just going to bob and weave and snake slither through the woods over to the flowers, right? What they do when they get there, whether it's take a selfie or they pick them all or they mow them down or whatever. But like they don't blaze a trail, right? So like nobody else on that trail is going to even be aware that those flowers exist. So you've done that, but you haven't brought anything to the greater community, right? Which is the
Certainly
others on
haven't
the
helped the
trail.
flowers, right? You haven't
Oh
helped
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
flowers none.
Without a doubt, you haven't brought awareness to the flowers. So you're right. So there's not. You're the only one appreciating them. Let's use the analogy that you do appreciate them, and it's the beauty. You're not destroying them. Well, you haven't helped the flowers even in that sense, because there's nobody but you appreciating them, right? You just slithered through the woods over there, like, and maybe somebody else figures that out. It's possible. So then the other one is like you say, you've got an undisturbed trail, right? That goes over there. Well, that's great, but unless you have an identifier that says, "Hey, there's these beautiful flowers." So I like your analogy. Maybe there's a sign. You fix that trail so other people can. You make it for people behind you to more easily experience those flowers, and then also if they're just walking down that main trail and there's a little offshoot of a trail, they don't know. But maybe you have that base of flowers there with a sign that says, "Hey, if you want to check out this rare flower or whatever, take this trail, this way, you know." And then so it gives, not only does it make an opportunity, because a trail with no sign, yeah, okay, it's an opportunity that somebody that may just want to randomly venture down a trail to see what they see. But it really doesn't help the larger community as far as direction. The vase of flowers with a sign would be more direction, like, hey, if you're interested in this, here's exactly what's at the end of this trail you're going to go down, right? You mitigate all risk for anybody wanting to do that. They know right away, if they hate flowers, they keep walking. Like, who cares? But if it's somebody that really wants to see those flowers, right? They're into that or whatever, that pathway is already mapped. So you tie everything. I guess what I say is there's the opportunity to truly go out on your own. And this is part of why I said I gravitate more to that foundational way of thinking. I um I don't say everybody walks in lockstep and in the same direction and on the same trail, but at least kind of start out in that direction, because that's where you get community. And it's really important as you start to branch off, right? And that's part of why we do these coaching sessions and we talk about creator things, is to let people understand that there's multiple trails. The main pathway, the main recipe with any platform, there's a main recipe. But, the true success lies in all of the little offshoots. And so you need to keep that in mind. If you do offshoot, keep in mind that, documenting that, whether it's in video, whether it's in audio, whether it's just on paper or whatever. Like, how did you do that? Like, why did I do that? Why did I start venturing off the trail to go this way? Like, why did I try to do that? And then what did I experience when I got there, right? And then that way, when you come back onto the main trail, you can relay that to those folks. That would be like the sign, right? And you say, "Hey, look, if we understand you're going this direction, but if you really like this or that or the other, here's another path you can take."
I
And
think I know.
here's another interesting thing, right? You talk about the trail in the woods, and I see a lot of creators that do this, and it just popped into my head. So let's use the same analogy. And you go off on your own and you build this trail, right? Or whether you build a trail or whether you sneak through the woods, right? Like, you find that grove and you continue on through the woods. What are the odds you find a shortcut on the trail, right? And we've seen this a lot of times. How many channels do you see that start and then like a month later they've blown up, or like a few months later? That is not the norm. YouTube is hard. And they have ventured off, right? And ended up in the process finding a shortcut.
Well, all right. Shortcut, sure. Alternative trail is what I'd call it. If there's a trail,
Well, but if it
uh,
comes back around to the original trail is what I'm saying.
no, that's what I'm saying. If your goal is to get to the destination, the end of the trail fastest, then yes, it's an alternative trail that's faster. But what I'm saying is, if that trail exists, more than likely somebody walked it way out there for a view, or way out there for an experience, or way out there for something that you gain when you get back to the trail, and that's what shortcuts just you get the lack of. So shortcuts are great once you have wisdom and experience, because you know what you're missing and you can quickly navigate around the things that you don't need to spend time on. But for new people who only take shortcuts, you're useless to the world.
This is
You're
true.
useless. You never experience anything. You
So,
have no commonality, and you don't appreciate nothing, because all you know how to do is cheat and get to the end, which isn't the
ah,
goal.
yeah,
But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah. That's valid. So what you're saying is you're with the group, you're moving down the main trail, you venture off, right?
yeah.
You snake through and you end up back on the trail. You can tell that's the same main trail. But here's the problem. You're by yourself because you're ahead of everybody, or maybe you're behind everybody, right? But either way, the community of people traveling down on the trail is no longer with you when you get back on that main trail. So it's not the same effect in that sense. Plus, when you walk out of the woods back onto the main trail in some other point, have you lost your sense of direction? Are you going to be going backwards on that trail? Do you know whether to go left or right? right? And I think that's where you're talking about having the experience and the knowledge, the wisdom, you know, to
Well, it's not a
give you.
lack of not a lack of awareness of direction. It's just that once you know the cheat codes, you don't care about orientation anymore. And that's where you risk, without a solid foundation, you just risk being as useless as anybody else who's wasting everybody's time, because without foundation and you got the cheat codes, you don't care what north and south is, because you're just doing whatever pleases you again, or you're exploiting whatever gains you can get.
Right.
Okay, getting into too much stuff there, but one of the things, going back to that flower off the trail and using that as the Second Amendment, I suppose what we're doing, but or what this Second Amendment protects and what that offers the community and the country and the culture. So it's all of those really. But anyway, using that again, I don't want my observations or whatever I'm saying here to be construed as like I'm against uh, going off the trail. So what I'm against is going to a national park and deciding I can take whatever flower I want off of it. When there's places that we've decided are communal or that are sacred or that are traditional or that are off limits for whatever reasons in culture or society, deal with that. Like, that's, you're chaotic if you can't handle that. But you're allowed to own property in a capitalist world. You can do that physically in all kinds of different ways. You can hang out with people and borrow and be part of, and there's tons of people that own and don't have a ability to use it. So if you're looking for places to go off road, to uh, bushwhack and to cut new trail, do that all day and night. Learn everything you possibly can about that. You're useless, in fact, if you can't do that, because in an emergency, you need to get off trail. Like, and you're useless if you're on a railroad track and you can only go forward and backward. So you need to learn these skills. I'm not trying to say don't learn those skills. It's just where you're going to learn them. So go figure out in a capitalist place, go learn those things on your own time, in your own property. Destroy any flowers you want in your own property, to do whatever tactics and routes and, destroy whatever environment you want. You should be doing that, because that's how you learn what destroys environments. But going out and trashing the parks because you're stupid and you don't know that there's other places you can go trash, that's reckless. And now you're just wasting everybody's time and you're hurting your own efforts, because you're going to have to repair all the bridges you've made or bridges you broke doing that
Yeah.
legally sometimes.
Yep.
I guess it's a metaphor. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. Like there's people that are going to think of this as black and white. Oh, they said don't go touch the flowers. Like, I'm not saying that at all. Go learn about the flowers. Just leave the flowers in the park alone. And send. I think that was the last one there. So going back to the conversation that's happening out in, well, not conversation, but the people that are out in the live chat. We're about halfway through the show. What was it? Krabby said free consultation, too good to pass up. So that's what we're offering. And if you're interested, I guess get with us, I don't know, on Instagram or somehow, because otherwise we don't know that you're out there. I guess emailing us. Emailing Clover, how about that? Because I don't have my emails opened up. If you have emails opened up, Clover is easier to email because I got too many emails. But or Instagram. Looking to see comments over here. We have one from G23. He's been thinking about getting back to the reason why he started the channel and do live streams about that. So I think that's well, about 10 minutes ago. So I think when we were talking about bushwhacking, going off course.
Yeah. It's a benefit. Like, documenting things, it can be of benefit. I mean, yeah, talking about like a trailblazer idea or whatever. Um, Documenting your journey and talking about, all of that. I mean, that has application to help those people that come behind. Because, like I said, we're not all the same, but are similar tactics or similar things used. I mean, the trail analogy. We may not use the same machete. We may not, even go the same way through, but we know that it can be done, and we have a general idea. It's kind of, you were talking about, early in the analogy of, being able to navigate without disturbing certain things, or paying attention to, how rain and water and weather, will affect, what you've done with the trail, and that type of preparation, right? Like those things are, that's universal things. And so uh, everybody can be taught, and everybody can be a teacher. Is what I'm saying. And so we should strive to be both. We should strive to learn, and we should also strive to pass that, the knowledge of what we've learned, on as well.
Reading the comments, so I don't think we're going too far into the analogies, perhaps. So I'm not sure what G23 is saying. I know he's been on a break or something, so I don't know, something prompted that, or if he's just getting burnt out. We're talking about what has been done versus what could be done. When we think about ambition, drive, motivation, and perseverance, do these mix, or are they parallel? Are they perpendicular? Are these different topics, similar topics?
Mhm.
Is it I don't know. You mentioned just a, I'm going to ghost you here. So threw that out there, and I don't know. As I'm saying it, I'm like, that's a hard question to answer. I don't know if he's going to be able to answer it. So I'm going to ghost you and say I'm just going to remember what you just mentioned there to G23 about going back and archiving your project. And I'll just add again that it's not just beneficial; it's super useful. Like no matter what you're doing, even if it doesn't seem like a lot, which is BS, because if you're doing anything, it's 1,000 times more than the people that are just watching you do it. So you're doing a lot if you're doing something. You're going to forget the stuff you're doing. So if
Yep.
it's easy to say now, but I'm going to tell anybody who's new, like start documenting everything you're doing in some kind of a journal diary or something, so that when you need to go back and figure out when was it I talked to so and so about that thing, or what day was it, like you have some kind of a system you can go back and figure it out. That being said, nobody's done that, but most people never take the time to spend a day or a weekend or a week and go archive everything you've ever done. And it's a good one, it's good for whoever you're leaving this for, whoever you're doing this stuff for. If it's for you, if it's for somebody else, if it's for somebody you don't know yet, it's making it possible to show them what you've done. If you're doing it with other people, it gives you the ability to show them what you've done together, right? And it's necessary. Um, at least if you have, well, it's necessary. So take an hour, take a day, take a weekend, or take a whole week to just focus on everything you've ever done. Make some sort of I don't know what that's called, a biography, I guess, of a channel. And
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
there's nothing bad about that. All you're going to do is get more experience, but you're also going to remember all the things you did. You're going to have a chance to bring back all the effort. I mean, we've spent amazing effort on things that at the time, either we just had to immediately go into something else or we didn't appreciate it at the time. Going back and seeing all that is more than useful.
Yep.
But anyway, going back to that kind of thing, anything there parallel with the topic of the day?
Yeah, I was like, when you're talking about, the record keeping, like recording things, whatever. Something that's simple. I think we can set it very easily if you have a website. You know, um, it's just a blog. I mean, right?
No,
Like,
yeah, seriously, yeah. Just a
like
post every once in a while to keep track of what you've been doing, so you
and
don't remember
it's
or forget.
yeah, it's no different than, posting to your social media or anything else, except for you're putting it in a place that you can control, that you can adjust and manipulate and organize the archive. You know, um, and
And if
you
it's
can
just
make
a
it.
category of your blog, like I'm going to
Mhm.
blog post once
Yeah.
a month with what I did this month and
Yep.
hashtag it my history or something, and
Yep.
then yeah,
Right. Yeah. Um, that G23 also set out there, different thing, tangent or whatever. Somewhere out there, I seen. Oh, yeah, he said, I can tell you that I've been grinding for over 3 years now. Um, so the first thing I would say about that, we can leave it up on the screen a little longer, is that grinding means something different for different people. Um, but 3 years is nothing in the world of YouTube. Um, most creator gurus are going to tell you that 5 plus before things really start happening. And keep in mind too that we often get too obsessed, and we've talked about this before with analytics and things. We tend to get obsessed because we're in the world of how many followers do you have and subscribers do you have and that kind of stuff. So we can get into a situation where we start becoming defined. We define ourselves by those things, or maybe we allow other people to define us by those things. Um, but even so, without the knowledge of what those numbers actually mean, specifically on this platform we call YouTube, um, and obviously the rank and file viewers, trolls, whoever that want to give you crap because you're only 1,000 subs or you're only 10,000 subs or whatever. Keep in mind that if you've got 1,000 or more subscribers, you're in the top 20% for sure. Some say 17% or so of YouTube. Um, and if you are 10,000 subscribers or more, you're in the top 10%. And some estimates show even the top 7%. So put that in perspective. What if you were a shooting sports competitor? You ran track and field, you were a swimmer, you were a mountain climber, whatever, and you're in the top 20 or the top 10% of people in the world. Remember, too, YouTube is a worldwide platform, in the world, right? And when you look at it from that type of a perspective, which again, most rank and file viewers out there that would throw that in your face, or even other creators. What do you know? You've only got 1,000 subscribers. Well, you know, hate to tell you, but you've got 5,000 subscribers. I'm in the same percentile basically as you are, right? So keep that in mind that when we talk about success and defining success, a lot of people use those numbers. And, if you're going to use those numbers appropriately. Don't let anybody use those numbers to beat you over the head with them. And even more so than that, depending on your grind. So I'll say this about the grind. So if I've got a rock hammer and a chisel and I'm grinding, quote unquote, uh, on a brick wall, eventually I'm going to get through to the other side. Odds are. If I've got the rock hammer and the chisel, and it's 3/4 inch solid steel, it's very likely I'm never going to get to the other side of that wall. Um, so keep in mind the it's grinding the right way. So just keep that in mind too, and that's something that you have to determine based on a lot of different factors. What I'm saying is, don't be discouraged if you're grinding and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. Then maybe you need to put down the rock hammer and chisel, and then you need a cutting torch, right? Like, maybe there's things, and that could be a direct analogy for actual equipment you need, be it a webcam or microphone or faster internet or something. Or it could just be a skill set. It just could be, your on camera presence, being able you know, to speak and get your value proposition and everything across. What am I thinking? Like public speaking skills, right? A lot of things can go into that. So, yeah, a grind is not a grind, and or not all grinds are created equally, I guess. And don't let anybody utilize superficial numbers, let's just say, against you.
Don't look at the poll, Clover. Don't look at the poll. And then anybody else who's here wants to vote in the poll. I'm going to ask Clover what he thinks who's going to win. I don't know if you've already looked at it to see where it's at now, but don't look at it.
Have you changed it?
No, it's the same poll as before. Which is a bigger factor on our efforts? What's already
Since
been
I've
done?
since I've voted, I haven't changed it.
Yeah, so don't look at it, and then I'll ask you. We'll wrap up the show with that. But G20. So I'm gonna. I guess I'm not going to reply to what you just said, although, we could probably, but I could, I guess. But I'm going to say G23 followed up with, yes, I did get burnt out by dealing with the clicks, and I have realized that I need to get back to doing what will help the Second Amendment and not hurt it by dividing the community.
Mm.
I don't know what the hell he means by that. Can you have any idea what he means by the last part of the sentence there, by dividing the community?
I don't. I'm guessing he sees the polarization that can happen inside the 2A community. Um,
Just, it's
it's
just
getting
people.
better, and I think it's been getting better for a while. Um, with people starting to understand and starting to realize that as far as the application of the Second Amendment goes, the practice of the Second Amendment goes, that kind of means something differently and is utilized differently by various people in the community. And so by talking about one over the other or whatever the case may be, um, there can be some division there. I mean, think about and also interjecting the political or the societal into the conversation as well. It gets really iffy. Like, I can't have a conversation with that person. They're a Democrat, even though they may be a pro gun, pro 2A Democrat. Or I can't have a conversation with that person because they're, you know, a part of the queer community, and I don't believe in that. And so by not being able to hash things out sometimes, that's problematic. And can add to division rather than but I've been a big I've been a long time believer that, you know, division in and of itself is not a bad thing. Um, if we're divided and we're not only divided, but we hate, despise, and resent each other, that's a problem. That's a problem. But division in and of itself is really a beautiful thing. It speaks to the American spirit. It speaks to individualism. And to me, that's a beautiful thing. So I don't have a problem with division in within that context because we're going to have always have people that cross over. You're going to have people that they hunt plus they do competition. They're self defense plus they do this, or they hunt plus they're an activist, or they're an activist plus they're into
So if
self
you think
defense.
of the realms of the all the things Clover just said there, and then your project, G23 or whoever's listening to this, right? Your project. So you're going to overlap something somewhere. Somewhere a 9mm shooter is going to listen to your show, right? Somewhere a hunter is going to listen to your show. Somewhere a competition shooter might hear your show, right? Are you going to appeal to everybody? That's tough. You can try. I mean, people try. There's probably people that do that well, and then people have a lot of fun doing it. But if more than likely you're trying to appeal to some of those circles. So I think one way to maybe look at that, if you think of what you're doing as dividing, just pick up and put down your project so that it doesn't overlap that circle, because those people are always going to exist. You're not going to change people, but you can just not attempt to reach that part that overlaps, right? Or am I saying that right? Like I'm
I mean,
trying to.
you're not, but here's the thing: if it overlaps a little bit, who's to say that somebody you have had influence on is a part of that community? And that person is then able to change, not necessarily change the minds, but educate and inform other people within that community. And then you get the respect, you get the understanding, you get the, you know, um,
Yeah, but if you're not seeking that or you're not dependent on that, then you can just perhaps, I'm just going to say maybe just readjust course so that you're not, you know, uh, intentionally bringing, I don't know, let's say you don't like me, I'm not a big shotgun person. So if I did a bunch of stuff about shotguns, it'd probably be dumb because then people would ask me questions about shotguns and I'd go, well, I don't really like shotguns. And then they'd be frustrated, like, why'd you post this video about shotguns? So, maybe something like that. Like maybe just no, all right, I'm not going to post a lot of stuff about shotguns. And when I do, I'm not going to act like any kind of authority. Like, here's a shotgun I know nothing about, so
mhm,
don't ask me questions about it.
yeah,
Um,
or collab on it.
well, maybe I don't care about shotguns. So I'm just going to say I'm just going to pick up my project and set it down over here where I just don't touch shotguns as much. And when I do, I just make sure to let people know, like, hey, don't come at me with the like, let's all have a
Yeah, but if
conversation
you,
about shotguns.
yeah, but I got to disagree there a little bit because if you just ignore that altogether, ultimately, is that of any benefit? I mean,
Well, yeah, because we
could
have to have division, or we have to have a boundary somewhere. We can't be a part of everything. So that's all I'm
well, I
saying is you got
understand, but
to.
you can have that boundary with a collab situation, and you can still have that boundary, but you have
No, I'm not.
still
Yeah, no, I'm not
exposed.
disagreeing. I'm just
Yeah.
saying I don't think you have to. You don't have to collab if you don't like.
Oh,
If I
you
don't like
definitely don't
shotguns,
have
I'm
to.
not going to collab with somebody about shotguns so that I open up to shotgun. I'm saying I just don't care about opening up to shotgun people. There's plenty of people that don't need me to worry about shotguns. But that's all I guess I'm saying is the if it's something that you see as you're doing something to cause a division, maybe it's just there's the division is there and you're just aware of it. Move over so you're not aware of it. That's I guess I'm just saying it. I'm just trying to say like if there's rocks in the water, then just alter your course so you're not trying to hit the rocks. Like quit trying to find a boat that can climb over rocks. Like dude,
Mm,
some things are not unless that's your goal, right? Oh, I'd really like to find a way to get here the shortest place possible. All I got to do is get a boat that can climb rocks, and I can do it. Then yeah,
mhm.
definitely do it. But if you're saying that, man, I'd like to get to where I'm going, but I keep having to redo my boat. Well, all right, well then maybe adjust your course so you just don't have to redo your boat every time or refix your
Yep,
boat every time.
that's true. Yeah, that's valid.
And I'm not trying to say that. I mean, we were probably all talking about different things here. I guess I'm saying if you're finding people that come up to you and start talking smack, then did you knock on their door and tell them something that they wanted to talk smack to you, or did they just come out of nowhere? You had you had the park reserved, and they decided to show up, and they decided to show up and walk over to your park thing and then start talking to you about it. In which case, that's on them. That's people that are angry, and guess what? The internet is full of angry people. I swear,
Yes, it is.
I could
Yeah.
put up a video or a channel of just watching my dog snore all day, and I'm going to get all kinds of people, maybe in therapy, maybe waiting rooms, maybe people who are differently abled that need to just have something to occupy themselves during the day. You're going to have backgrounds for live streams and stuff that people could use a little puppy stuff. There's all these things that are out there, and there's going to be people that show up and rage. Why do you have a channel with a puppy? I hate this channel. And then they're going to just say the most vulgar stuff because it's just what happens when you have 100 people. Two of them are going to be off, or broken, or having a
Yep.
bad day, or whatever their excuse is.
Yep.
And then that's part of hopefully what we're offering is don't get callous, but just be aware. You don't have to like hate them. You don't have to have an issue. You just be aware that they exist. There's mosquitoes. Are you just never going to have a picnic? Or are you going to do something to get rid of the mosquitoes, or not? Just get used to dealing with a mosquito or something. Maybe go out in the morning and then they're not there.
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to appreciate it. And if we're totally off on that G23, we know you. So, we could be easily going way off into different areas that we're missing. Feel free to elaborate. We've got a couple of minutes left, but to the same thing, if you're the original thing, the grind or whatever, to I didn't want to interrupt Clover, but basically to go along with what he was saying, right? Are you looking for subs? Are you counting subs or friends? Like, how many of us would know people that are interested in the things we're interested in to the numbers of people we know if we had only the people around our house or only the people that go to the stores we go to, or maybe the shooting events we go to or the gun shows or something? Like, I can tell you that that's weird. I can tell you that it's very, very few. We would have nowhere near as many actually the same level of friends that we've got as the internet offers. So some people are shopping for subs, and some people are appreciating their friends that they're making. You've got clicks versus adventures. Some people are out there to create clicks for a reason, and there's business reasons, there's mental reasons, there's ego reasons. Who knows what all kinds of reasons there are for clicks? They're not all bad. I mean, some of them are just I need clicks so that I can make more money. Then there's people that are looking to go have fun in life, right? Like, so people are doing things for different reasons. We definitely know people that think they've got all the money they need, and they look down on anybody that makes a dollar doing anything that they don't approve of, and they just go around farting around. And that we're supposed to judge ourselves to that or compare ourselves to that? Come on. Then you've got funding versus memories. Are you trying to create a channel that pays bills? Are you trying to create a channel that is a free hobby? Are you trying to create a channel that doesn't cost you anything? Or are you trying to have memories of things like going to Wanamaker with 30 people from gun channels? I mean, come on. Going to SHOT Show for however many years. Like, I could have made a bunch more money, but I'm down with I'm keeping my uh, memories of the ventures that we've had. Productions versus experiences. Is your goal to make the coolest thing? Like, there's definitely people that are into video editing. There's people that are into getting people into one room. There's people who are down to having the best selfie or the best list of friends, and they can bring people together to make amazing productions. Right? They can shoot the interesting things, or shoot at the most expensive things, or get the most views from the production that they create. And then there's people that are just looking to have something to do on Thursday evenings. And then the people that are judging you or bitching at you, if you're, talking to the person, that are people that are considering what they're doing a grind. What are the people that are watching you? Are they sitting there drunk and miserable, or are they on your side and allies and patting you on the back and in the co-pilot seat? Are you doing stuff? Are you having adventures? You're accomplishing things, right? And that's the next one: popularity versus accomplishment. There's people that are out there for ego. You'll never see nothing but a selfie, or what, everything relates to what they've done before. And then you've got people that are accomplishing things. DC Project, Girl in a Gun, uh, Tony Simon, Charlie Cook.
Charlie. Yep. Yep.
So popularity for some people is a different thing. I know there's a lot of realm there, but I just wanted to throw those verses out there to this is the internet. This is our time, and this is 2023. There's a bunch of people, like Clover was saying, that you don't even know. People that are the richest, most useful people on the internet, they don't have giant YouTube channels. Are you kidding me? Definitely the richest people on the planet don't have fancy YouTube channels. And the people with the fanciest YouTube channels, well, let's just say they're not showing you their whole life. They're showing you a produced version that creates the funding that they need. So there's no, the grass is always greener shit. There's no greener grass.
Well, and a lot when you get into, especially a money aspect, if you're talking about big uh, companies, big corporations that have social media presence, if you talk about, uh, if you talk about politicians to an extent, if you talk about pop culture icons, music, sports, different things, a lot of those, um, like they're a face, they're a presence as far as themselves, but they have social media managers that handle all that. Like they don't even personally manage it. And that's even true with a lot of big YouTube channels, not just and not talking specifically gun tubers, but across the board. Like you get channels that are millions, especially millions of subscribers plus, and a lot of those, I mean, they come into their quote unquote office or studio, they sit down, they say a few words, and they have somebody that does the graphics, they have somebody that edits, they have somebody that uploads, they have somebody that answers the comments. Like literally, you see their face on the screen, and that's the only contribution to that content they've made. Like
Well,
they
and
have
it's
a
not because
writer,
they're
they have
lazy. It's because that you need all those things to be strategic and to be
right,
on point. It's
right.
difficult for any one person to be a superhero. So if you want to be effective at all those different elements, then you put a person on those tasks, and that's how the channel gets maintains that like hype every week or
But at
every.
some point, and that's the thing about growing into a big large channel. At some point, I mean, you're at 1,000 subscribers, right? And you're doing, it's you on the camera, and you're coming up with the content, and you're your own writer, you're your own editor, you're your own videographer, and all of that is a much different situation when you get up into millions of subscribers or whatever, and you're the face on the camera, but you didn't even write the words you're saying. You didn't, you know what I mean? The flow of the video, you really haven't put any thought into that, like an editor did that. Um, it's a weird dynamic that things change, and you'll see that as channels grow, the audience shifts. Um, and I see this in GunTuber channels, and I see it as other channels too. The audience always shifts, and that's because um there's a certain amount of viewers out there, a certain percentage of viewers that value the real, and they understand and they can see at which point a creator becomes um just a talent, an on-screen talent, right? And they see that. Um because it changes. I mean, obviously, if I my next video I put out, if I got with G-Webs and I said, "Hey, write my script for the review video on this gun," right? And then I called Ghost up and I said, "Hey, here's all the footage. Edit this video." Well, I can guarantee you, no bigger than I am, there are lots of people that watch my content that would see something off. They would go, "Whoa, wait a minute. This is different. Like, what's going on here?"
Why is this video so much better than all your other videos so far? Yeah.
Probably so. Yeah, exactly. Probably so. But no, I think that could be. I think that could be. You've got people that would come in and go, "Wow, this is awesome. This is so much better." But then you've got a certain percentage that are going to think exactly the opposite. They're going to, man, I liked it when it was real, and you could really tell that, you know, that he was involved in every single aspect of that video.
Um, where you didn't look at the votes. We got 13 votes now. It's overwhelming in one direction.
It's
What do you think?
overwhelming in the um,
What could possibly be,
looking
or what has
forward.
already been done?
What could possibly be? It's going to be overwhelming for what could possibly be.
Okay, so that is the case. 85 to
Yeah,
15. So I think that's probably like one vote for
yeah.
what's already been done. So what's a bigger factor on your efforts today? I really didn't know what it would be. I hadn't. I mean, is it? Am I just missing something? Is it obvious that that's just the tendency of most people to think of the future,
I
or
think
what
the
could be?
vast, I think the vast majority of newer creators, the vast majority, um, and this is why I don't subscribe to that. I think we need to have a foundation first. Um, then we've done been through all of that conversation, obviously, on this podcast. But I think most new creators, they come in and they have this idea. I want to do it differently. I want to be completely different. I blaze my own trail and all that. And I think that's fine. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that attitude, but I think it's a much more difficult grind. Um, and so that's why I move into the smaller camp of have a foundation, have a, and this is part of these coaching, it's part of what I've done with trying to teach is to give people a foundation, right? So in a sense, if you have ever listened to me over the last 4 or 5 years or however long it's been at all, and especially if you've ever employed any of the tips, tricks, tactics, strategies that I have talked about, then you're being dishonest with yourself by picking that, right? The the non-foundational one, right? Uh, by picking the whatever. What was the? I don't even remember the question. Oh, what could possibly be done? You're being a little dishonest with yourself because you've obviously listened to me and employed some of the tactics of things that have been done. You built that foundation. Um, so in all honesty, you're more in the camp that I'm in. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Well, I guess that makes sense. There are some people that are like, oh, I like what I'm watching. I'm going to do it too. But a lot of people go, oh, I see what I'm seeing, but
Well,
I
I'm
want
not.
it needs
Yeah,
this flavor, and I want to
that's
add
and
this
that's
flavor to it.
and
Yeah.
that's fine. But there is, like I said, there is a degree. There's a degree of difference in there, and that degree of difference makes all the difference. You could take what has already been done, parts and pieces and tidbits of what has already been done, and then turn around and say, okay, here's these now. What can be done with these parts, pieces, and tidbits, right? So again, it's the yin yang. You're technically you're using both strategies, but that foundational has to come first. You've got to say, okay, this has already been done, but it hasn't been done in this way. It hasn't been done with this item. Let's think we're talking about a certain way that a creator that you see reviews a product, right? And you're like, man, I like the flow of everything. I like the background. I like the camera angle. But what if the background was this color? What if the camera angle was slightly different? What if, we did it with these types of items, right? So that's taking a foundational idea, right? And then bending it to your wheel, so to speak.
I was going to say trying to bite my tongue because we're at the hour mark and I don't want to keep going off on tangents, keeping the show going. But I did want to say the way you said, and I started, I got distracted, but the way that you said you want to know the tradition first. I think that to someone who's doesn't want to know the tradition or doesn't respect the tradition, they've got the right to not care about or actually hate the tradition. So I don't want to put it that way because I think the same way to say it is, or another way to say the same thing is, if you intentionally don't bother to learn the traditional way of it or what's already been done, then you're risking repeating everything that's already been done and looking like, if you just repeated everything literally, everybody's going to go, duh. And if you say it all wrong, you're going to look like an idiot. And it's possible that the third option or whatever, the smallest option, that you're going to come up with some brilliant new thing, even though you don't know what's already happened, but some brilliant new way to approach everything. That might be what a youngin is going to think or some novice is going to think, but that's a needle in a giant haystack. That's not something that's a viral. That's not something you create. That's something that occasionally happens, out of coincidences or whatever. But I just want to put it that way, that you don't necessarily have to know what's coming, but you're acknowledge that if you're intentionally not, then you're setting yourself up for essentially probably the biggest result is people are just going to go duh or not pay attention to you at all because you're essentially rebuilding the wheel or just restating the obvious.
Yeah,
So you can
it's
just
kind of
fast
like
forward yourself by knowing what's already been done.
yeah, it's kind of like the old saying, and a vast majority, I'm sure, that's listening to this and in the gun tuber world probably subscribe to this. Like, if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it, right? Well, if
Yeah,
you
probably
are
the most
just
important
if you're
wisdom.
focused on what could possibly be done, and you've got no foundation based in history, then I see that as the same thing. Like, you're doomed to repeat some of the mistakes throughout history. I mean, there's a certain amount of that foundational knowledge that I think is required. But again, this is an opinion thing. I will take a minute since we're getting close to shutting down here. If there's anybody out there and you do want that specific private consult in the after chat, be sure to reach out to myself, GWebs, DMPM email, and let us know out there in the chat if you can that you have sent that, and we will be happy to bring you in and chat with you about some specifics on your channel, specific questions that relates to your channel, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we usually get less than 10 people that join us, so it's not like it's going to be a big, we can only fit 10 people in here, and it's not like we have standing room only. So, I mean, it's not like there's people standing around off stage looking at your personal stuff. So it's not like
Right,
we've got to divulge any personal info.
right.
So John Z is out there. Good to see you. Ron Wayne joined us. He had a nice comment. Been listening. A great show. Really makes you think. That's what our goal is. We want you to value your voice. Uh, we're not telling you the way to do it. I'm just trying to offer people the ability to understand there are maps out there. There's plenty of things you can do, and you can prep yourself so that when you go do them, you can set yourself up for success for whatever your goal of success is. And we are better off with a lot of voices, even if a bunch of them are singing the same song, because if we've got a lot of artists expressing the same opinions, we're going to reach more people than if we just had one chorus singing a song or something. And that's what we've come from. And a lot of people would say we're devolving to, but we're just evolving to the next level, or the next evolution of the way our communications work and the way that we as a society accept, people that see the chaos of the social platforms and the potential of AI, they only see the chaos, ignore the chaos that came from credit cards and the internet and cell phones and uh, cable television. People were upset about how people could view public access. People don't even acknowledge that because it seems like such a trivial thing. But there was a time when people got upset that cars were going to take over from horses, and that was going to be the end of the world. When buildings went over 3 stories tall, how are you going to get people out of those buildings when they catch fire? Like, there was concerns and fear about the future always. And then there's people that capitalized and moved on, and people that understand that you can prep and do better than when you just experience and reflect. So with that, I'll let Clover talk about whatever he's got coming up. Well, there's Chicago Mike out there. Welcome. I'll let Clover talk about whatever he's got coming up, and then we'll be off air to talk to the people who join us for the consult.
Yep. Got the final week of the Clover Tech podcast is this week. So we'll have Jeff with Gear Report hopefully tomorrow, and Chase with EAA Thursday, and then might have a quote unquote special guest drop by on Thursday as well. So um, not gonna say who or anything like that. Just that might be a thing. So um, yeah, check out that uh, final week of podcasts. So be sure to join us for those if you can. I think both will be later in the evening. So should be a possibility for quite a few folks out there. Join us for those two if you can. That's all I got.
Right on. Even though I said I'm gonna let Clover end it, I just wanted to say thanks to our Patreons, the people that subscribe to what we do. I realized that I had not put my banner up at the bottom. I usually like to have that running because it lets people know that there are about 120 people that subscribe to what we do. They buy us a cup of coffee essentially each month, and that accumulates to pay the bills for the servers and the software that make it possible for us to keep the network of websites that are resources for Second Amendment stuff that offer information and the history of the stuff people have done. All that stuff's maintained by a bunch of people that subscribe to what we do over on the Patreon platform. A bunch of other people who don't like that platform subscribe to us on YouTube. I know Clover uses both platforms, probably others as well. And I'll speak for him and say again, thank you to the people that make it possible for us to spend time like this. That's not a commercial pitch, and that we're going to spend another hour or so off air giving people personal consultations. So thanks everybody for making that possible. We'll see you next weekend or next week. If you've got a topic for next week, let one of us know before then.